Welcome back everyone to another episode of Pixel Peak. Holiday season is just about upon us and some huge titles are getting ready to drop.
In case you've been distracted with Black Ops 4 or still web-slinging in Spider-Man, Pixel Peak is here to give you all the news you need to know about the video game industry.
This week our news segment covers Xbox reportedly buying Obsidian Entertainment, West Virginia using a post-apocalyptic game to market its tourism, and yet another round of developer layoffs.
Reviewer Zach Clayton takes a look at Assassin's Creed Odyssey in this week's review. The game has received above-average critical reviews, but less than stellar ratings from the public. So, where does Zach fall?
I'll talk to you guys about a fantastic scholarship program Ninja Theory has started, and what one journalist thinks of Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice a year after release in this week's editorial.
We'll be joined later by our analysts to look at the biggest exclusives coming to each console before the end of the year. If you haven't gotten your wish list ready, this will definitely help you out. We know you're ready to get this thing going, so I'm Kristen Lawrence.
I'm Bobby Eggins, and we hope you enjoy your stay here on Pixel Peak. This week we're kicking off the news with a real doozy of a story for Xbox fans. On October 8th, Kotaku's Jason Schreier reported that Microsoft is working on closing out a deal to acquire Obsidian Entertainment, the developer behind Fallout New Vegas, Pillars of Eternity 2, and South Park: Stick of Truth. The deal isn't official yet, but one source told Schreier that it was a matter of when, not if, and another said that it was 90% completed. This would be the most notable purchase in a year during which Microsoft has been making plenty of moves. In June of this year, the company also announced that it had purchased studios State of Decay developer Undead Labs, Forza Horizon developer Playground Games, We Happy Few developer Compulsion, and Ninja Theory, the studio behind 2017's Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Microsoft didn't have anything to say about the deal, and a spokesperson from Obsidian told Kotaku, "Unfortunately, we don't comment on rumors or speculation, other than to say that the Rumors album by Fleetwood Mac still holds up. We'll be sure to update you as the story develops."
In a tantalizing piece of news for PlayStation users, Sony CEO Yoshida Kenichiro told Financial Times that the company was officially working on the successor to the PS4. The executive didn't drop PlayStation 5 by name, but he did say, "At this point, what I can say is it's necessary to have a next-generation hardware." Kenichiro didn't give a time frame for the successor's release, but in May of this year, Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO John Kodera told Digital Trends, "We will use the next 3 years to prepare the next step, to crouch down so that we can jump higher into the future." So it's possible that we'll see this console generation come to a close around 2021.
With less than a month before the release of Red Dead Redemption 2, details might have surfaced about another Rockstar game seeing a sequel in the not-too-distant future. According to Rockstar-oriented rumor site Rockstar Intel, the developer put out casting calls that might just be for a sequel to the 2006 cult classic Bully. The site said there are 7 calls out for a new unannounced video game title with a leading UK games developer shooting at Pinewood Studios, looking for predominantly teenaged roles. Other roles the studio is looking to fill reportedly specific staff like college professors, so maybe old Jimmy Hopkins made it out of Bulworth and headed off to college after all.
In what may be the most interesting cross-promotion of 2018, West Virginia Governor Jim Justice announced on October 11th that the West Virginia Tourism Office would be partnering with Bethesda to simultaneously promote the upcoming Fallout 76, which takes place in the Mountain State. In a press release, Governor Justice said, "It's finally time the rest of the world sees what a gem West Virginia is. For years, I've been saying we have it all. Beautiful scenery, the best people you could ask for, and more. And now we get to share a piece of that with people all over the world through the unique lens of this video game." The office will be collaborating with Bethesda to make ads that showcase West Virginia's landscape and culture, as well as encourage folks to take a trip to the state in person. The West Virginia Tourism Office will be announcing more details in the coming weeks and may look to create a tour of locations in the state based on the Fallout 76 map. Promoting your state with a game that shows it 20 years after nuclear annihilation may seem like an odd strategy, but it's an interesting novelty at the very least.
Data miners with the Silk Road discovered in an Android update for Pokemon Go last week that all 107 Generation 4 Pokemon have been added to the mobile game. The Pokemon, all of which first appeared in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl on DS in 2006, aren't available for capture just yet. But with the inclusion of their data in the most recent update, their official launch can't be too far off. The official Pokemon Go Twitter account also tweeted a teaser video for the inclusion of the Sinnoh region Pokemon, so by the time we record this episode, players may already be catching them all for the 4th time.
Wavedash Games, the developer behind Steam Early Access game Icons Combat Arena, laid off most of its staff last week. On October 5th, the Oakland-based developer said in a press release, "Wavedash will look very different next week. Effective today, we are unfortunately laying off the majority of the development team." Wavedash is another name in a long list of developers that have laid off significant chunks of their staff over the last year, a list that most recently included former The Walking Dead developer Telltale Games, which laid off its entire staff and closed its doors this month. For more information on that, be sure to check out the first 3 episodes of Pixel Peak, all of which took a look at Telltale and the job climate in the games industry at varying lengths.
In a commitment to further game streaming in the coming years, Microsoft announced a streaming service called Project xCloud this week. Project xCloud aims to allow players to stream their games to any device they choose so they can play anywhere, anytime. The service, which looks to increase access to console-quality games regardless of location, seems to be mainly targeting smartphones and tablets. Public tests for Project xCloud will begin in 2019, but right now, Microsoft is testing it in-house. Microsoft says that players will be able to connect Xbox One wireless controllers through Bluetooth to their smart devices, as well as allowing them to play via a touch control overlay that the company is still developing.
In more Microsoft news, last week saw the arrival of a new version of Xbox avatars. Avatars have been around since 2007 and have largely gone unchanged in the 11 years since. Microsoft had been working on the update for quite a while now, and Xbox users who participate in the beta program have had access to the new avatars for months. For those that want to make themselves a new avatar, they'll have to kiss their 360 one goodbye, including all of their 360 avatar awards. But there are plenty of new options and styles to make up for the change. A new avatar store also launched alongside the new avatars, where players can spend a few bucks to deck their mini-me's out in costumes and armor from their favorite Xbox games.
In a bit of sad news, Lucasfilm has shut down the ongoing fan remake of BioWare's 2003 classic Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic. Poem Studios, the developer behind the project titled Star Wars: Aperion, tweeted last week, "It's with a great sadness that I'm posting today. I recently received a letter from Lucasfilm instructing Poem to end production on Aperion. After a few days, I've exhausted my options to keep it afloat. We knew this day was a possibility. I'm sorry, and may the Force be with you." Aperion aimed to take the original Xbox title, overhaul it with the Unreal 4 engine, and release it for players to enjoy once more. The shutdown spells doom for this particular project, but as we've seen in the past, like with another Metroid 2 remake and Nintendo, sometimes the closures of a fan-made project is due to the upcoming arrival of something more official. In the meantime, we'll just have to hold out hope.
2 weeks ago, Ubisoft released the latest entry in their historical fiction franchise, Assassin's Creed. I'm Zach Clayton, and let's take a trip back in time to ancient Greece to look at the world of Odyssey.
Have you ever wondered what it'd be like if Skyrim and Tomb Raider had a baby? Well, wonder no more, as Ubisoft has unleashed Assassin's Creed Odyssey onto the world, and it's a lot to take in. Set in ancient Greece during the events of the Peloponnesian War, players get to experience a gripping story and explore a breathtaking environment as they decide which side of history they wish to reside on. The story opens with King Leonidas and his Spartan army fighting a great battle against the Persians. This event gets the players acquainted with the basic controls of combat and some of the new battle mechanics present in the game. In the present day, Layla Hassan, a familiar face from Origins, finds the Spear of Leonidas and uses the DNA on it to experience the memories of Odyssey's protagonist. Cut to 431 BCE, 49 years after the Great Battle and 400 years before the events of Assassin's Creed Origins, and we're met with the protagonist of the story. A Misthios, or mercenary, who was betrayed by their family, cast off a cliff, and left for dead. Players follow Alexios or Cassandra, whichever they choose, as they attempt to restore what's left of their family while at the same time furthering the war goals of either Athens or Spartan factions. When Layla Hassan enters the Animus, the player is given a few options to tailor their experience of the game. Players are given the choice of difficulty ranging from easy to nightmare, and the choice of game style, guided or exploration. Guided shows all map markers and automatically gives quest objectives, while exploration makes players search the world for the quests and other points of interest. Things aren't made overly difficult though if you choose to go the exploration path, as players can use their god-sent eagle, Icaros, to help them find objectives and hidden chests. Players simply press a button on their controller or keyboard to take control of Icaros and use his bird's eye view to spot enemies or other interesting points. Throughout the world, players will stumble upon bandit camps, restricted areas, or other enemy spots, and to dispatch of their foes, players can use a plethora of methods. There's the traditional sneak and assassinate method, which players use the Spear of Leonidas as their main tool, the hunter method, which utilizes the bow and arrow, and the warrior method, which lets players use one of many types of weapons to charge head-on into battle and destroy their foes. Some of these weapon types include swords, daggers, spears, staves, and clubs. The combat is pretty basic and can easily be picked up in minutes. One button is reserved for light attacks and another for heavy attacks. Pushing both will result in a parry, which staggers the enemy and gives the player a chance to fight back, and another button is mapped to dodging, which will be extremely helpful when players fight in conquest battles. Players should have no problem taking a few attacks though, as they will pick up loads of new equipment from chests, shops, or enemies. The loot uses a color scale to show its worth. The rarity item, the better perks it will have, with purple being the rarest and gray being common. Another mechanic for combat is the player's abilities. As the player levels up, they are given a skill point to spend on a new ability from one of the 3 skill trees. There's the Hunter skill tree, which focuses on bow gameplay, the Warrior skill tree, which centers around close quarters combat, and there's the Assassin tree, which, as the name implies, focuses on being a stealthy assassin. These abilities are extremely useful in helping you complete your missions and coming out alive. Also, some are just super cool, like the Spartan kick. Let gravity do all the heavy lifting, or quite the opposite, and make short work of those hard to kill enemies. Not only can players fight on the land, but they can also fight on the open sea too. Once you've acquired a ship by completing some of the story, you're thrust into the high seas to travel to one of the other islands, and during your travels you'll encounter enemy ships from other factions such as pirates. On your ship you'll have access to archers and javelin throwers as your offense, and your rowers can initiate ramming speed to deal massive damage. Throughout your travels, you may find yourself inclined to murder or steal, and after doing so, you may find that your bounty has been increased. If you commit too many crimes, such as killing civilians or stealing in plain sight, a bounty will be placed on your head, and a bounty hunter or a few will be sent to hunt you down. These bounty hunters actively track your character, and while not too difficult to handle one at a time, can become hard to defeat in a group. They are especially aggravating when they attack you while you're in the middle of a quest and aid the enemy. As you defeat bounty hunters and mercenaries, your character will advance on a tier list and you'll gain access to some useful perks as you reach the lower tiers, such as discount prices from blacksmiths. The game gives the players the chance to make decisions for their character at some points, which can affect your game later on. One example is near the beginning of the game when the player is confronted by 2 thugs. The player is given the option to kill them or allow them to live. If you kill them, it's done there, but if you let them live, they gather some friends and ambush you on the road a little while later, so choose wisely. Assassin's Creed Odyssey offers a massive map for players to explore at their leisure. There are the major cities of Greece, and then some smaller islands, each with their own sights to see and quests to complete. While exploring the expansive world, players will notice the abundance of wildlife that makes sure the world doesn't feel empty. You'll encounter goats, wolves, whales, dolphins, and sharks, to list a few. To help the player get around the land, they are given a trusty steed named Phobos. The player has the option to choose one of 3 horses at the beginning, but they're all Phobos, so pick whichever paint job you like best, I suppose. The world is also full of side quests, which gives players more of an incentive to explore and are also necessary in leveling up so you don't fall too far behind your enemies and bounty hunters. While looking at the map, players may notice some square boxes that display images of Cassandra, Alexios, or some cool shot when hovering over it. These are photos taken by other players with the in-game photo mode. The photo mode feature allows players to stop time and, well, take a photo. It allows you to manipulate tint, contrast, brightness, and a few other settings to get that perfect selfie. What I really love about Assassin's Creed Odyssey though is the music. While you're in your menu looking at armor or the map, there's this buildup of ancient acoustic instruments and a woman chanting in the background. During the main menu there's a track called Legend of the Eagle Bearer, which really instills a sense of epicness in the player. It's really one of my favorite parts of the game. The animations in the game are also quite well done. When a character is speaking, the player can see the subtle nuances in their expressions and get a better understanding of their attitude on the situation. What I don't like about the game, though, isn't too much. Occasionally there are some noticeable lip-syncing issues with the character's voice, and sometimes a character's accent may be a bit too exaggerated and seem a bit goofy, but these are really only minor issues which can be looked past. Another issue I had early on was that Odyssey didn't feel like an Assassin's Creed game. It felt more like a Batman Arkham game with its combat. And as someone who really only played the older Assassin's Creed games, this was new to me and I just wasn't used to it. But as I played more, that issue seemed to fade away, and after a while it really didn't bother me at all. To conclude this review, Assassin's Creed Odyssey takes the franchise further into a new direction, and it's doing so quite well. Personally, I'm a huge fan of this game, but that may be because I have an Ancient Greece bias. The music is outstanding, the gameplay is fun, the environment is teeming with life, and the story is captivating. I can tell this is a game that I'm definitely going to put a lot more time into. This is without a doubt a great game, and much like Homer's Iliad and Odyssey, Assassin's Creed Odyssey is an epic to behold.
Oh, and Mystius, don't fail.
Well, that takes care of our Pixel Peek review of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. The game almost earned our Top of the Mountain award, but didn't quite make it to the peak. Now to talk about Ninja Theory and mental health in the gaming industry, here's this week's editorial with Bobby Agins.
In observance of World Mental Health Day, Hellblade, Senua's Sacrifice developer Ninja Theory announced a new collaboration last week. The team is working with Cambridge Shire and Peterborough NHS Foundation's Trust's Recovery College East to create and fund a new scholarship to help with mental health education in the UK. Senua Scholarships is the result of a partnership with Cambridge Shire's Head to Toe charity and will support the training of one mental health tutor every year. The studio previously worked with CPFT Recovery College East during the development of Hellblade. For those unfamiliar with the game, Hellblade is a game based on Norse mythology focused on a character named Senua who struggles with psychosis. Hellblade was originally intended to be played in VR, and aspects of the game are supposed to simulate psychosis to give players a small glimpse of what those with the disorder deal with on a daily basis. Ninja Theory worked with folks at CPFT Recovery College East and others, like neuroscientist Paul Fletcher, to help ensure they were properly representing psychosis in the game. So, was it worth it? Upon release, the game was well received by critics and it sold better than the company anticipated it would, but it didn't resonate perfectly with everyone, including some people who struggle with the illness themselves. In the piece published by Polygon, Dia Lacina, a writer that also has psychosis, wrote that the game was well-intentioned but often unintentionally invalidated her actual mental illness. Lacina described many of Hellblade's puzzles as feeling, "I was being deliberately undermined," that my own mental illness was being explained to me by an inexperienced outsider. Having to embrace Senua's reality, as Ninja Theory's puzzles demanded, meant having to give up my lived experiences as a mentally ill person to occupy a perspective that felt inauthentic. Lacina also criticized the game for not adding any normal encounters in Senua's life. It boiled Senua down into her traumatic memories and ongoing illness, but completely ignores the idea that she has a life that she still has to live along with her psychosis. Lacina said, "It presumes a world where people with mental illness exist wholly divorced from their societies. This wasn't true in the 9th century, and it certainly isn't true now. People with mental illness have to live among other people. That's a colossal part of what makes living with a mental illness a struggle." To remove that context for narrative and gameplay reasons undercuts any desire from the developers to be sensitive or didactic. However, despite Hellblade's shortcomings, it was a step in the right direction in comparison to the way mental illness is generally portrayed in video games. Harmful stereotypes are baked into the medium both inside and out of the horror genre. Games like Ubisoft's Far Cry 3 turn it into a punchline, like Voss's insanity refrain. Batman Arkham Asylum saw the caped crusader fighting his way through an institution of the criminally insane. Some games even reduce sanity to a meter, like in Eternal Darkness, where players have to keep an eye on a bar that supposedly represents their mental health, which drops when the main character is spotted by an enemy. Hellblade isn't perfect, but the standard for representation is so low that it seemed groundbreaking. Regardless of the game's faults, it's cool to see Ninja Theory commit to their cause. A lot of studios would have already moved on from a project after it being out for a year, so it's refreshing to see Ninja Theory commit to the present and the foreseeable future. And a scholarship of this nature is great in multiple ways. Not only is Ninja Theory funding someone's education, but they're also bringing more medical professionals into the world that might actually be able to help people with mental illnesses like the ones they addressed in Hellblade. Now to close out our show, let's talk to our analysts about games set for release this holiday season.
Only 2 full months remain in 2018, if you can believe it. The other 10 months have been full of some solid game releases. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Ni no Kuni 2, Forza Horizon 4, Call of Duty Black Ops 4, and so many others have either topped the sales charts, impressed critics, or both. But the year isn't over, and there's still plenty to be excited about for the upcoming holiday season. Joining us now are our in-house analyst, Xbox analyst Seth Frazier, Nintendo analyst Zach Beasley, and PlayStation analyst Will Strickland, who also doubles as our producer. Thank you all for being here. Starting with you, Zach, what games can Nintendo fans look forward to before the year's end?
Okay, so for the holiday season, you've got the heavy hitters for Nintendo first-party support. On December 7th, Smash Ultimate's going to be coming out, and a lot of Nintendo fans are excited about that. On November 16th, you've got Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, and Pokemon fans they're rabid, so a lot of people are going to be flocking to the stores for that. But what's really exciting is on November 16th, Civilization 6 is also releasing for Nintendo Switch. Now, it's a game that's already come out, but to see support from third-party developers on the Nintendo Switch is really exciting. Another game to look forward to that's third-party is Diablo 3 that's going to be dropping on November 2nd. And to round it up, Dark Souls Remastered is coming out next week, actually, October 19th, and I'm really looking forward to diving into that.
Will, what can we expect on PlayStation?
Yeah, so PlayStation's kind of weird. They've kind of pulled out all the stops for the year. They already had Shadow of the Colossus Remaster come out, God of War, Spider-Man, both of which are potential Game of the Year contenders. So as far as new releases exclusive to the PS4, you're really only looking at Kingdom Hearts, the story so far, which is just a compilation, but it's still all 500 Kingdom Hearts games put together. So players are going to be really excited about that. But you have to keep in mind, they have a lot coming up next year. They have Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, so they're really pulling out all the stops next year. Also keep in mind Horizon Zero Dawn, other first-party exclusives that came out last year. I expect a lot of Black Friday sales. I think they'll still be supporting that game a lot, trying to get more homes and more players' hands. But yeah, as far as this holiday season, PlayStation is a little weak, but they'll be bringing out plenty of good stuff next year.
All right. Seth, what can we expect from Xbox?
Xbox never does too well on the exclusives front, but they are going very hard on the hardware front. I think the Xbox One X is going to have a big showing when it comes to some of the heavy hitters this season, especially Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming in at, if I'm not mistaken, a whopping 88 gigabyte install size, which is less than what people thought it was going to be. Some people said it's going to be 105 gigabytes. I personally am looking forward to it. I think that on the Xbox One X, Red Dead 2 will perform very well. As far as some game preview games we have that are exclusive to the Xbox One that may be released later in the year or early next year, Deep Rock Galactic is a fun dwarf mining game. You're on different planets mining for resources and fighting big bugs. It's kind of like Team Fortress mixed with Left 4 Dead a little. I had a lot of fun with that one. And I'm very excited to see what Xbox will be bringing to the hardware front next year. Personally, I think we're going to see a next generation console.
Well, thank you very much to our analysts for filling us in on the release calendar. We hope you're also excited for what the end of the year will bring for us. Keep an eye on the release calendar for next year too, because there's some blockbusters coming out.
We also hope you found this whole show interesting. It wouldn't be what it is without our incredible cast. Thanks to analyst Zach Beasley, Seth Frazier, and our producer, Will Strickland. Writers Tanner Mazzell and Max Stein. Reviewer Zach Clayton and associate producer Kyle Presley.
We'd love to hear from you on any thoughts you had on the episode. Drop us a comment on YouTube or connect with us at Pixel Peak AppTV on Twitter. Make sure you also subscribe to AppTV's YouTube channel and support us on AppTV's Facebook page.
New episodes of Pixel Peak air every Wednesday at 4 p.m. on AppTV. You can watch it via our live stream on watchapptv.com or tune into any of these channels.
Thanks again very much for watching. We'll see you again next week. And as always, we hope you enjoyed your stay here
on Pixel Peak.